All right. We're coming back, Jim. It's been talked. Welcome back. If you're tuning in, I've got Mr. Bradford, who is the Deputy Garrison Commander for Fort Knox. Phenomenal job you're doing, by the way. Not that my vote counts, but I see you.
I'm not in an elected position.
No, you're a hired position, but you're doing fabulous. If your bosses don't know, in fact, I missed Sergeant Major today. I've got to reach out to him and have a follow-up today. He was at the Meade County Chamber luncheon, it was a great event. Annie did a great job and her crew, and it was great seeing them. And Meade County Bank was there. They sponsored the event today, and it was
fantastic.
it was super fun.
Yeah.
And something I didn't know, I guess, Meade County Bank sponsored, I think it's Tidal Wave Bank, and it's ran by the kids at the high school, or the young adults coming up, and they manage it. They've got VP of Marketing, VP of Accounting, VP, and they all play these roles in it, and they provide this banking class for the students. So it's very cool to learn about today. And, you know, I see you everywhere. I see your Garrison counterparts everywhere, but... You know, this episode is always the third Thursday of the month. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. But Mr. Bradford is the Deputy Garrison Commander. He basically fills in the role, I like to call it city manager. Because there's just...
I'll put that on my LinkedIn.
Yeah, there's like so many things that are going on between contracting, job hiring, how many... There's how many stars on the post now? Star billets.
Well, we're still at 9, only because the Army has not officially announced the new commanding general for the recruiting division.
Okay.
And we're waiting for Senate confirmation for we think General Davis to fleet from 2 stars to 3 stars and become the recruiting commander, which will have a series of organizations underneath him. But here very quickly, we should go from 9 to 10. So, in essence, single digits to double digits, so to speak. And we've already started to see population growth to be able to support that restructuring.
Well, I can tell you, I've been discussing the work we've done from the paper to incorporate and integrate our neighbors. Obviously, that hasn't been done in years, other than our outreach through tourism and Meade County Chamber for all their work, and Hardin County in tourism as well. But having the connection with our neighbors at Fort Knox, because 40% of the population in Meade County work on Fort Knox.
Absolutely. If you're on, if you're on Highway 1638 between probably 07 to 8 o'clock in the morning, it's a long line. Now, occasionally you get stuck behind a bus, and it just builds up this time of the year. But quite a few folks. That's not even talking, the people that are more toward the Flaherty side of the county that are taking a different way into work and stuff. But
well, they come in either 60 and hit the Brandenburg Gate, or they come in front gate.
That's right.
And we all hated it when the back gate's closed.
That's right.
I gotta go all the way to the front. It's a little bad.
That extra 7 minutes means a lot at 7:30 in the morning.
It does. Y'all done very well with the gate closures, though. I think you've communicated those very well. With the obviously digital makes a big difference, and I can just go click on it, and you got somebody populating that thing early in the morning. You guys are about to be affected in the pocketbook right now because of this whole thing. How does that impact us locally, when the government shuts down? I mean, being 40% of our folks, are they going to be stranded at home? They going to still go to work? How does that look right now? And obviously y'all are probably just peeling that onion back since it started last night.
Yeah, sure. So, like all good organizations and stuff, I mean, we're in the middle of, several meetings to make sure that we're straight. That's not just at our level, but it goes all the way up to, to the Department of Defense. And the first thing that no organization wants to do is get in front of our political leaders. Ultimately, it's a civilian-led, government for all the right reasons that the Constitution laid out. But good organizations will make sure that, we've got good contact list, that we understand what is commonly referred to as exempted or accepted, and we'll be leaned as far forward as we can. So when political leaders make decisions, when our leaders at the Department of Defense and Department of the Army make decisions and issue guidance, then we're prepared to do it. But a common question, like you just asked, is what does that mean to me? And the reality is that we'll still have all the essential services that are out there. So that's fire, police department, emergency services. You're still going to have to show your ID card to come through the gate. Those type of things. Interestingly enough, this time of the year, tomorrow is the last day for kids, and then we're on Christmas break, so it doesn't affect teachers and principals and things of that nature. So that gives us a little bit of a reprieve. Many of us are taking vacation, whether that's for a week or a couple of weeks, and that's not preventing anybody from being able to take vacation. Then the other thing, it kind of gets in, well, I still like going to the gym. I need to go to the commissary, a.k.a. Fort Knox's version of Kroger.
Yes.
The PX, again, Fort Knox's version of Walmart. Those things are not impacted as well, because they fall into those categories that get after the life, health, or safety. Where does it it impacts? It may impact hunting on Fort Knox over the holiday period. So from a recreational standpoint, our game wardens and our range control safety staff that makes that happen, we may have to make a decision saying, hey, no hunting, to be determined. But that's that's an area. Someone loses their ID card, we'll still do it, but it just simply may take longer because there will be less people in the office. Our contracted professionals will not be impacted because those are paid beforehand. But the other civilians or soldiers may be impacted. We always go down in a lull this time of the year. It's the holidays. It's natural for all things business or government-wise. That gives us a little bit of flexibility during this go-around. But again, I think we'll be, good with respect to that. Gyms, bowling alley, eateries, things of that nature. We pay for that in a different pot of money, commonly referred to as non-appropriated. That will not impact. So if you're just hankering for a bowling alley hamburger, or you need to get your kids out of the house and you want to go to the bowling alley at Fort Knox, that'll still be open short of Christmas Day, obviously. Based upon the holiday hours, that's not impacted as much. The people that are truly impacted are kind of like myself. So budgeteers, accountants, security, those things that kind of go. So think of a county or a city administrative staff that would be impacted. It's not so much the face-to-face customer aspect that you would that you normally encounter from a customer or from a retiree or veteran perspective.
So, well, that's good news. So if you were worried about whether or not you could go to the commissary and go shopping, and you're a retiree in Meade County, you can go get your shopping done. You can also get a messenger at the commissary or the PX.
You could.
And the getting on and off post, so I would assume gate closures might be impacted, or just like the or does that matter?
Yeah, not so much. Interestingly enough, again, this has kind of fallen into a weird period. This weekend we have weekend hours, so if we were talking about Brandenburg, it would be closed anyway because of the weekend.
That's AKA the back gate.
The back gate is commonly referred to. It may impact Monday the 23rd, but then on the 24th and 25th, it's holiday hours anyway. So, Jim Bradford, who's going to work on Monday the 23rd, I may have to go to to the Chaffee Gate. But yes, most of the time it's going to be just the holiday hours that's going to impact us more than anything.
Yeah. Because we're waiting on the Senate to approve, obviously, the 10th command on post, do you see that lingering much longer, or is that in communications as far as like an estimated timeline, or is that a USAREC question?
Yeah, well, no, it's not necessarily a USAREC question. You know, it is really how the Senate puts things in front of their committees and what they and what they vote on. Yeah. We are tracking that some Department of Defense nominations have gone in and come out. The Department of Defense, rightfully so, probably, in our communication with the Senate said, look, these are my priorities. These are my second priorities. These are my third priorities. I don't know what those are, but there is communication that I know occurs, and it's just a matter of the Senate between their legislative requirements, their legislative breaks, and that's what we're in kind of right now, minus the CR sessions. Yeah. They are people too, and it's just a matter of that paperwork going forward.
I've always learned about being because we're very neutral when you're in the military. You don't really speak politically and all that other stuff, but it's very interesting at how we would normally do something, and these levers are switched, up until election, and then depending on who wins, then okay, these levers are going back on. A couple of these are going to stay on, but these are going to definitely go off, and it's like the DOD just gets ready for it because we know what's a no play and what's a play, and it just plays out. But the guys that are down on the ground and the ladies that are down on the ground making decisions like you do, I mean, this is day in and day out business because you got to keep the lights on. But it's like we just lift and shift and move on, and you don't even notice an interruption in anything.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you go all the way back to 2013 when we actually truly, no kidding, for the first time in history, furloughed government, government employees. We've had cycles up and down, and again, like a business, like your home, quite honestly, you kind of go, all right, I need to do these things to get ready for this storm. All right, okay, are you straight? All right, whether the storm hits or not, you're prepared for it. Yeah. And we do that as well, just like we do for hurricanes, tornadoes, and other things of that nature. I, personally, yeah, is it a little crazy? Sure it is. Yeah. But life in general is a little crazy at times. You just kind of get used to it and kind of go, all right, I can control this, but I can't control that. Yeah. We've just got to wait for it to happen.
I had probably, and not to change subject too much, but there are folks in our community that do so much to support Fort Knox, and even in small business. And I had a great conversation with probably one of those who's been doing it for a long time, for over 50 years, but Carl Corvin.
Okay.
And he and I were in my office just earlier and having a very good conversation. They've been moving our soldiers for years, and me one of them. Moving stuff, whether it needed boxes or help. I bought furniture from Corvin's, which they do a great job. I'm not shamelessly plugging him, but there's so many of these businesses that sometimes they get impacted by these ups and ebbs and flows. Yeah. How much of that impact do you think that these things that happen when the government's trying to make these decisions impact us? I mean, do you think it's huge, or do you think it's like a move is going to happen, but it's just going to get delayed or stuff like that? I mean, does that get impacted over the holiday?
I think that a little bit of the history over the years has said that something that is last minute or something that is short term does not impact. Maybe it's a scheduling thing, so it's kind of bumps from this week to next week. Okay. So less of an impact in there. We clearly learned that from the 2013 there was economic impact across across a multitude of things. Yeah. Local businesses, state and local revenue sources, et cetera. Even though at the end Congress and the president did all the things to do back pay, it created those things. But I mean, to your point there with Corvin's, whether it's Corvin's Moving Company, whether it's Abound, you mentioned other banks. You know, I could talk all day long about ECTC and other businesses and organizations. Yes, the connective tissue between Fort Knox, its organizations, its people, into many of those businesses are hand in hand. And many times we don't even see it. It's not just a local Fort Meade County or Brandenburg banking institution that is doing banking classes. We see it on Fort Knox.
Yeah.
We see it in Radcliffe and Vine Grove. We see schools reaching out to these manufacturers saying, hey, I'd like to introduce my kids in this class to how manufacturing, production, and industrial logistics works. STEM classes that are connected to a pick a business, donations, just giving time and effort beyond money. That's what makes Fort Knox unique. That's why we have the Gold Neighbor program. And in many ways, that's why we try as much as we can to be part of chambers and recognizing the chambers of commerce and everything that they do. That's why we're part of municipal governments where we can, working them with in hand. And yeah, I'll give my shameless plug as well. I've had 2 homes here in the region since I've lived here, and both of them have used brother and sister on the side of the Corvin's family to help me and my wife as part of that, whether it was interior design work or, hey, I just need you to help me move X, Y, or Z from old home to new home. And we utilize them immensely inside of our housing area. Yeah. They are a huge, a huge partner, but not the only one. There's many others.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I got educated today on some information too, especially for choosing the right moving company and making sure you make those right choices.
Sure.
Just things that we need to know, things we need to educate our military population on. So again, that was a great conversation. I think that the work that you guys are doing to network with our military, like seeing Sergeant Major today out there and stuff, but y'all also do so many events, and I know that I want to capture those things that are coming up at Fort Knox, because you don't have to go far if you're in Meade County, especially because of some of the activities you guys have going on. So, we're coming up to the holiday. You just did the tree lighting. You had the Christmas event. We did the wreath laying at Fort Knox. We have some follow-up stories that are coming in the paper about all that stuff too. But what are we walking into the new year with? There's some New Year's Eve celebration stuff.
Yeah,
all the way
so probably like several other businesses around here. Yes, we've got the whole range of religious and spiritual aspects on our chapels and churches here on the 24th and the 25th. So I don't want to give, I definitely want to highlight that, but I know that there are many other organizations and churches that are doing exactly the same. As we kind of roll into New Year's Eve, we will do a whole host of activities at the Saber and Quill, New Year's Eve party, etc. Obviously this Saturday, but really continuing over the next couple of weeks, we got the college football playoffs. So we are doing things in Sam Adams with respect to that. Admittedly, that is probably targeted more to our single soldiers and people that are living on Fort Knox. So they got an opportunity to kind of go to that sports bar and watch that on a big screen with thing. But would love to have folks as we come out of the new year. We're starting back up with many of our yearly or annual events. Dueling Pianos is coming up. We've got a very robust karaoke night that we are expanding. That capability. I'm not a karaoke person, but admittedly, I've loved watching people do karaoke.
I might have been one of those guys at one time.
That's right. We are outfitting our bowling alley with a new electronic system. So that is a big, huge plus to the 4 bowling leagues that we have that operate on Fort Knox, along with the mom and dad of, hey, I got to get the kids out of the house. It's snowing or raining sideways. Let's go, let's go bowling and stuff. And then, it's just that time of the year, January and February, but we roll into March, then it's all about, getting ready for spring and Easter and things of that nature. But
post
lots
cleanup.
of great things.
Post cleanup, yeah. Getting ready to watch the flowers grow and all the new mulch go down. And how was it after the Army-Navy game on Fort Knox? Was there a quiet on post?
Well, first, she's probably not listening. So my wife is a Navy veteran.
Oh, my.
And we were dual military. Our first duty station. So the Army-Navy game is a big game in our in our house across the board. So it was not a fun night at the Jim Bradford residence. Understood. But no, they had a big event there, and yeah, it's fairly quiet. Yes. So.
I can just see it now. You're at the Saber Quiller, you're at one of the bowling alley, and it's on all the TVs.
That's right.
And there's one Navy family there, and they're all screaming, "Yeah!" And everybody's like, it's like having a Cardinals fan at a UK event. You know what I mean? So
yes. We actually have a engineer on our staff that grew up as a Navy CB.
Okay.
Big Navy guy. Clearly works for the Army now. He was not my favorite fan Saturday night, as he kept emailing me or texting me, but that's how the game's played, right? So.
Well, it was a long streak they broke. And it was heavily tuned into for both branches. I think it was awesome because they had a special visitor with President-elect Donald Trump. There was a lot of media coverage over. Of course, I'm not going to cover that. Well, okay, that's just the Army-Navy game. But
right.
If I was on supposed to be different, but it was an interesting. I was like, holy cow! And my kids were like, "Is that the Army losing?" And I was like, click, 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 change the channel.
That's right.
No, they win every year, son.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
If I could have switched to the UK Louisville basketball game a little bit earlier, I probably would have. But I had to watch it to the end.
Very good. What do we need to know that we don't know in Meade County about Fort Knox coming up over the next 3 weeks until we see you again? Obviously, you guys, I did not make it this month, but you guys have your group meeting with everybody from around the installation. The next one won't be until January, February, March, I think, into the new year, where you bring everybody in, businesses and support activities with all of the
that'll be
commanders.
in late January. Late January. So
okay.
One, our community information exchange. CIE is the last Tuesday of January, so I don't have that date right in front of me.
I'll pull it up for you.
For some reason, I want to say the 23rd or something like that, but I may be a little off. But it's the last Tuesday of January. So if you are a business, a private organization, or you just kind of generally want information, it's open to all. We do a Facebook live stream, so by all means, if you've got a Facebook account, you can dial in, just kind of listen to that, probably like you do other things of that nature. What I would tell you that I'll either come back on January or February is maybe of interest to some folks is our compatibility use plan. That's kind of commonly referred to as CUP, but it's CUP, compatibility use plan. We are in the final draft. The intent is to sign that here by MLK weekend, end of January. And then that will put us into the implementation plan that we are implementing with Bullitt County, Hardin County, and Meade County. And that really looks at that 3 to 8 mile kind of buffer around Fort Knox with respect to growth, but also abatement that doesn't impact Fort Knox from a readiness standpoint. So how are you building houses, where your AT&T phone towers are going, water towers from Meade County Rec, all of those things kind of fall into that implementation plan. And because what we don't want it to do is to impact readiness, but at the same time we understand growth is inevitable, and we just want to be smart about it and communicate that. And in many ways we work with the counties toward their zoning, ordinances, regulations, and things of that of that nature. We clearly know that, housing is going up left and right, and we just got to be smart about that, because no homeowner wants to be sipping on a cup of coffee at Saturday morning at 9 o'clock and hear loud noise or helicopters flying over them, or troops training right next to them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we know that houses have to be built. So,
do you expect to see an increase in the no-fly zone circle based off of?
No, I don't, but I think a lot of folks don't realize the air corridors that we have. And I mean, a perfect example is I was at a Radcliffe zoning and planning meeting probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they were talking about rezoning from commercial to residential because a developer wanted to put some stuff in there, build houses. And my comment is, well, you're doing it right over an air corridor, not a very active air corridor, but an air corridor nonetheless. And you're doing it in an area that is not fenced, and we have training there. So I don't want a resident who just bought a house.
See a guy walking up with a blink adapter.
That's right. Or I threw smoke or a simulator grenade or whatever, and it wakes the baby up at during the nap time. So we just need to be cognizant of that, of how we do it. It was zoned commercial for a reason, and commercial businesses are not impacted by Army training like residential areas are.
Yeah, well, I think all great talking points. Jim, it's always glad to have you in here on the show and kind of keep us up to date. These are all great topics, too. I look forward to our next engagement. It'll be right around the ICI timeframe, so we'll actually get to engage before then. I think we're the third Thursday of every calendar month. So to all of our friends at Fort Knox and all of Meade County, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you guys. Have a happy holidays.
Thanks again, Jim. And again, it's always a pleasure.